Hey folks, this is Pigohan on the North American server, and with Russian battleships coming soon, now is as good a time as any to do a video on the Tier 5 premium Russian battleship, the October Revolution. So the map is Haven. It is a standard battle. We are, of course, bottom tier. And a shout out to Nord in the Frutaka. The October Revolution is a ship you could have earned some time ago, and I'll admit that at that time I really didn't like it much, and I didn't really play it much either. That being said, with the CV rework, she's kind of gotten a buff. Her AA was probably decent before, but now it's become pretty good at Tier 5, whereas my old standby, the ARPKA, I feel like the AA has gone from decent to worse, and that's why I've played this ship quite a bit recently. So, what is this ship like? I like to describe more niche ships in terms of more mainstream tech tree ships because I think that makes it more relatable. In that sense, I think the October Revolution is very much like a mini Fuso. It is a medium speed battleship with a large number of low caliber, mediocre accuracy guns. And this means that, especially bottom tier, it will reward good ammo choice. You'll see that I opened up with HE, and I will switch back and forth throughout this game. Being a tier lower, the October Revolution is of course an overall weaker ship than the Fuso. She has 12-inch guns instead of 14s. She has a longer reload. She has slower traversing turrets and an overall slower top speed. The armor layout is also similar to that of the Fuso in that it's a lot of medium thickness armor all over. She does have less area of really thin plating though, and this combined with a relatively small superstructure means that the October Revolution resists HE spam better than the Fuso. She also has the Russian battleship damage control, which is limited charges of a very fast cooldown. Back to the game here. I've been shooting HE since the beginning, but I see the Königsberg pushing into the middle, and I switch to AP even before he gives a broadside. Just looking at his position on the minimap, you can see that he basically has to turn around, and he does give me broadside when I fire, but by that time, the team has done so much damage that all I get is a kill secure. In general, I'm staying towards the middle of the map here because A, I'm a slow battleship, and then B, it's standard battle, so you don't really have to push any caps, and a defensive posture is good, especially since we are technically winning. So instead, I'm just going to mill around in the middle here and shift my fire to the flank where it looks like they're pushing. I called target on the Gaj. Unfortunately, he was only briefly spotted. As a Tier 5 battleship, the Tier 7 destroyer is obviously one of the biggest threats. In general, DD should always be a priority target anyways, though they have less impact in Standard than in Domination. In my opinion, even though it's randoms, you should still call target on these things. If no one shoots, well, that's to be expected. It is randoms. But if people do shoot, well, maybe you helped. The Scharnhorst looks like he's pushing in, so I'm going to try to farm him for a bit. I actually slow down and stop here because I think it is a fairly safe position. There's nobody on my broadside, and at least for a little bit, it should be hard for the god to tort me. Now, after setting a single fire on the Scharnhorst, it might have been a good time to switch to AP, but I felt like the HE was doing good damage, and I kept it, and it actually paid off because it seems like this guy did not have his Damacon up. So he's going to burn with that double fire for a little bit. One more thing to note is that at the end of my gun cooldown, I'm still not detected, which means that the Gaj is either still in his smoke or behind the islands, which means it's still safe for me to stay here for a bit, if only it weren't for the goddamn planes. Now, I said earlier that the AA on the October Revolution was decent, but this is just an unfortunate situation where the Rangers squads were probably at full health, and I was basically stationary, so he could get in a quick drop while minimizing his time in my AA. The Ranger did not come back for another pass, so ultimately I did not take that much damage, but I still had to burn a DCP, and I am going to start moving at least a little bit. One more note on AA. Since they've made it such that carriers are only at the even tiers, the odd tier ships are in kind of an interesting spot with regard to AA. As it is, AA is still very tier dependent in that top tier carriers will crap on bottom tier ships, but top tier AA usually craps on bottom tier carriers. So if you are in an odd tier surface ship, you will basically mitigate this tier imbalance of AA because you'll never see a CV who is 2 tiers below you, but you will also never see a CV who is 2 tiers above you, and therefore you get rid of the best case scenario, but you also get rid of the worst case scenario. It's not necessarily better or worse, It's just a trade-off. Now, I'm still dealing with the 2 Tier 7 destroyers here, and all I'm doing is slowly pulling away and shooting when I get the opportunity to. Even in a slow battleship, the best defense against a fight that you don't want to take head on is just to kite away. Of course, running is not always an option, but at least in this case, we managed to finish the Bliss because he had to push into us. And with that guy dead and the Gauge smoking up directly behind me, I once again feel safe enough to slow down and start farming the New Mexico. At this point, the game is starting to become pretty secure. While we were dealing with their top tier destroyers, our team was able to win the other flank, and now the red team has to make something happen, and they're not really in a position to do so. I'm going to start backing up here. I do want to close the distance between the New Mexico and the ships that are further behind him, but I don't really want to turn left in front of the New Mexico because I don't want to show him a broadside while going so slowly, but I don't want to turn the guns 180 to turn the other way as well. I do believe I have one of the special Russian captains with improved expert marksman on this ship, but really it's more like the improved expert marksman makes the traverse just bearable rather than make it really good. So the New Mexico looks like he got fed up and he started spamming HE. I repaired a double fire like a normal person. As I said earlier, the October Revolution does have the special Russian Damacon, though in this game I wasn't really able to take particularly good advantage of it. Overall, I think the fast cooldown, limited charges is a net buff over the standard Damacon because if you're managing DCP well, you aren't going to use those 5 charges for the most part. But it gives you the option to use them all very fast if you need to, and that optionality is what makes it better. So the New Mexico turned around, and as he was turning, that was when I decided to make my turn as well. I loaded AP just before he started turning, but he went around too fast and I wasn't really able to capitalize. I switched back to HE because I thought this Congo was going to pass that island and then run away, but it looks like he actually beached and I missed a really good opportunity. I unloaded my HE volley onto the hood and got a nice fire, and I switched back to AP to see if I could clip the Congo. I wouldn't have been able to, but actually the Congo runs aground again, and I'm going to get a pretty decent volley off here. These are the situations where you really want to start using the AP in the October Revolution. Against higher tier angled ships at range, HE is really the way to go, but once you start closing the distance like this, especially for same tier ships, the AP can really start racking up the damage. Even though I did not get a citadel on the Congo, I still did like 12k after all of my shells landed. And this 6k on the hood is also pretty respectable. I don't think I would have gotten that with HE. I guess one way to look at this is maybe you lean toward HE when you're kiting, and you lean towards AP while you're attacking, though of course there's going to be exceptions to that. I kept AP hoping to see a Congo broadside, but the Ranger shows up, and even though he's further away, I thought he's a better target because the Ranger basically has no armor. I spread out the shot because I noticed he was slowing down, and that did pay off, and we got a juicy double citadel. Switching back to HE for the final time, because the Congo is running, and you can get HE citadels on the Ranger. We spotted the Ranger, and I went for the Ranger because he was going behind the island, and I wouldn't be able to shoot him later, whereas I would be able to keep shooting at the Congo. I did not manage to finish the Ranger, but I did manage to get a high caliber at 145,000. Final volley is on the Congo. We do set a fire, and he will burn for a bit, but of course someone is going to kill secure him. That's pretty much the end of the game. I am going to flash the results as usual, but the only real special thing is that this was my highest tier 5 damage game, a full 10k above the 141 I had in the Iron Duke maybe a year ago. I guess you can also see the nice blend of AP and HE fired, but that's pretty much the end of the video, so have a nice day.